Welcome back to The Lost Tactician, where we unearth the forgotten knowledge that kept civilizations alive against impossible odds. Imagine structures built thousands of years ago, still standing tall, crafted from wood that simply refused to rot. How did ancient civilizations achieve this seemingly impossible feat without any modern chemicals or advanced technology? Today, we're unlocking the secrets of forgotten preservation methods, revealing the natural additives from arcane mineral compounds to ingenious organic infusions that kept their wooden marvels defying millennia of decay. This is survival science written in timber and time. Picture yourself standing before a Viking longship pulled from the cold embrace of a Norwegian bog, its timbers still intact after 1,000 years beneath the earth. Walk the decks of the Oseberg ship, run your hands along wood that carried warriors across savage seas in the 9th century, and ask yourself, what force preserved this vessel when modern lumber rots within decades? The answer isn't magic. It's meticulous science born from necessity, refined through generations, and lost to the erosion of industrial progress. Wood, in its natural state, is really a feast for nature's decomposers. Fungi colonize its fibers, insects burrow through its grain, and, moisture accelerates the inevitable return to soil. Modern construction, well, it battles this reality with arsenical copper chromate and synthetic fungicides, chemical weapons in an endless war against decay. Yet ancient builders achieved something far more remarkable. They created wood that endured not through brute chemical force, but through understanding nature's own defensive arsenal. The question isn't just what they used, but how they thought, how they observed, experimented, and passed down knowledge that, honestly, we're only now beginning to reconstruct. The first answer lies beneath our feet, in the mineral wealth of the earth itself. Ancient engineers discovered that certain compounds drawn from stone and soil could, fundamentally alter wood's vulnerability to biological attack. Copper salts, for instance, became a cornerstone of preservation across multiple civilizations. When copper ions penetrate wood fibers, they create a hostile environment for fungal spores, deactivating the enzymes that break down cellulose. The Romans understood this intuitively, incorporating copper-rich solutions into their naval architecture and public works. Archaeological evidence from the Dead Sea region reveals another fascinating dimension. Wooden artifacts preserved in mineral-rich environments showed dramatically reduced microbial colonization. The natural salts leaching from surrounding sediments created a preservative bath, saturating the wood with sodium chloride and magnesium compounds that essentially mummified the timber. This wasn't intentional preservation, but environmental fortune. Yet, ancient builders who observed such phenomena learned to replicate the effect deliberately, treating wood with concentrated brine solutions before installation. Iron compounds played a similar role, particularly in Asia and the Mediterranean. While we usually think of rust as something destructive, the controlled application of iron oxide actually created a protective layer that sealed wood against moisture penetration. The chemistry here is, quite elegant. Iron acts as a cross-linking agent, binding with organic compounds in the wood to create a more stable, less digestible matrix for decomposers. Ancient metallurgists working with iron may have noticed that wood exposed to forge runoff lasted longer, and they translated this observation into intentional practice. Beyond minerals, the ancient world turned to the plant and animal kingdoms for protective elixirs. Tannins, those bitter compounds that pucker your mouth when you bite into an unripe fruit, became humanity's first natural fungicide. White oak, prized across Europe and Asia, contains exceptional tannin concentrations in its heartwood, the dense, dark core of the tree where the living cells have died and been replaced with resinous deposits. These tannins don't just resist fungi, they fundamentally alter the wood's chemistry, making it unpalatable and indigestible to the microorganisms that cause decay. The oil archives read like an ancient pharmacopoeia. Cedar oil, documented in records from 2000 BCE, was extracted from the aromatic cedars of Lebanon and applied to ship timbers and temple columns. Its volatile compounds act as natural insecticides, while its waxy consistency seals wood pores against moisture. In China, shipwrights developed tung oil preservation 3 centuries ago, pressing oil from tung tree nuts and working it deep into hull planks. When tung oil polymerizes, hardens through oxidation, it forms an impermeable hydrophobic layer that turns wood into something approaching waterproof stone. The Vikings, those master sailors of the frozen north, had their own solution, train oil, rendered from seal and porpoise blubber. This wasn't just waterproofing. The oil's fatty acids have mild antimicrobial properties, and its thick consistency filled grain imperfections that might otherwise harbor moisture. Imagine Viking thralls working oil into freshly hewn planks, the smell of the sea already infused in timber that would carry raiders across the Atlantic. Even coal tar creosote, though industrialized much later, began as a wood distillate. Ancient peoples burning wood in oxygen-starved environments to produce a tar thick with biocidal compounds. Yet the true genius of ancient preservation wasn't in any single additive, but in the synthesis of material, method, and environmental awareness. Charring, for instance, required no additives at all, just controlled fire. By burning the outer surface of wood until it carbonized, builders created a black, impervious layer that insects couldn't penetrate and moisture struggled to pass. This technique, called shosugi-ban in Japanese tradition, was simultaneously fireproofing, weatherproofing, and pest control. Selection mattered as profoundly as treatment. Ancient builders knew that heartwood, the tree's dense core, laden with natural resins and tannins, far outlasted sapwood, the living outer layer that ferries water and nutrients. A Roman engineer didn't simply cut down any tree, he selected mature specimens, harvested at specific seasons when sap flow was minimal, and carefully separated the durable heartwood from the vulnerable sapwood. This wasn't superstition, but survival knowledge encoded in practice. Environmental design completed the preservation equation. Egyptian wooden artifacts survived for thousands of years, not because of treatment alone, but, because the desert climate provided this natural desiccation. Ancient architects understood that moisture was really the enabler of decay, so they designed structures with elevated foundations, strategic ventilation, and overhanging roofs that kept rain away from those vulnerable joints. They built with the environment, not against it, creating conditions where even untreated wood could quite remarkably endure. As we face our own environmental reckoning, these ancient techniques offer more than just historical curiosity. They actually present viable alternatives to our toxic dependency on synthetic preservatives. Modern researchers are rediscovering what our ancestors knew, that nature provides its own arsenal of protective compounds, effective and biodegradable, capable of extending wood's service life without poisoning the ecosystem. Projects across Scandinavia and Japan are reviving traditional preservation methods, proving their continued relevance in sustainable construction. The wisdom encoded in ancient wood isn't just about survival, it's about observation, patience, and working within natural systems rather than overwhelming them with industrial force. These civilizations couldn't synthesize chemicals in laboratories, so they studied forests, minerals, and decay with the intensity of scientists whose lives depended on the outcome. They were tacticians of a different kind, fighting entropy itself with knowledge passed from master to apprentice across generations. If you found yourself transported back to an ancient shipyard or Roman construction site, you'd witness survival science in action, knowledge that kept empires afloat and temples standing. That knowledge is our inheritance, waiting to be reclaimed. If this journey into forgotten preservation science ignited your curiosity, hit that like button and share this video with fellow history and survival enthusiasts. Subscribe to The Lost Tactician for more deep dives into the tactical knowledge that sustained civilizations through the ages, because understanding how our ancestors survived doesn't just honor their memory, it prepares us for whatever challenges tomorrow brings. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, the greatest survival tool is knowledge that refuses to rot.